Sometimes it's hard to look forward. You can't see what's in front of you. Looking back behind you is better. Back in the 1850s, publication provided the slaveholders with the guidance how to produce the quote unquote ideal slave. One, maintain strict discipline and unconditional submission. Two, create a sense of personal inferiority so they know their place. Three, instill fear. Four, teach servants to take interest in the master's enterprise. And five, deprive access to education and recreation to ensure that slaves remain uneducated and dependent. A lot of these cathedrals, I call them, these colleges, were built on the backs of slaves. People were paid top dollar for Negroes. All over the South, you can see them in the North too. Brown, Yale, Harvard, University of Alabama literally have slaves on the campus buried. South Carolina, I can go on and on. That's why most black people in the 1900s put such a hard dedication on getting our kids educated. Education first, education foremost. Graduation was the only option. Well, a lot of the people who fought for those educational opportunities that we are so graciously avoided right now, they can't even rest in peace. They can't even rest knowing what they did. Example.
Parts of the historic cemetery could be taken over by the Denner Group, a development company that wants to turn some of the south and west side into a mixed-use development with housing. But it's something Sue Spears, the president of the Bethany Cemetery Association, and someone who has been taking care of the cemetery since the mid-90s, never wants to see.
That land use is not appropriate next to a historical cemetery.
The Bethany Cemetery has a rich history of East Austin with graves dating all the way back to the 1800s. At the time, the Oakwood Cemetery split up the black and white graves, and when the black section filled up, some black men in the East Austin community created the Bethany Cemetery Association. And now the Bethany Cemetery holds a lot of historical significance with former slaves and Buffalo soldiers.
They experienced Jim Crow, and they lived through all that turmoil. And now that they have supposedly a resting place, then their resting place is going to be disturbed. So to me, they were marginalized in life and still being disrespected in death.
And
it's back to this publication. Maintain strict discipline and unconditional submission. You have to do what we tell you to do. No other option. Create a sense of personal inferiority so they know their place. Install fear. Teach their servants, quote unquote, to take interest in the master's enterprise. Deprive access to education, recreation, to ensure that slaves remain uneducated, helpless, and dependent. If you combine all those two together, it goes to the lack of movement, lack of money, and lack of education, which is something that we're always fighting about right now. That generation, which is buried in Bethany Cemetery, faced unimaginable hardships. They faced so many things we can never dream about. Just to go outside, if you see somebody of a different color, knowing it could be your last day. That was how they lived. But they still fought for education. Now we sit here, the fruit of their loins, their wildest dreams, and we're still held by these same five principles. There's a sense of personal inferiority with our HBCUs. No matter how many judges or Congress people or vice presidents come from HBCUs, they're considered an inferior product. No matter what degrees happen, no matter what awards are won on or off the field, they're told it doesn't matter, you went to an HBCU. By that inferiority in our own education, it instills fear of we have no option. We have no option but to go to these PWIs, which were built literally on the backs of slaves. And PWIs now have an option of we don't have to pick which ones we want to take or take a certain amount. So we're going to deprive you access to these great institutions, which we say are greater than yours, even though they're not. And we're going to make sure you remain uneducated, helpless, and dependent on our assistance. And of course, maintain strict discipline and unconditional submission. It's a straight high school to prison pipeline going on for years. So these five subjects, these 5 points, if you will, are all still around. And yet we sit here on the point of trying to figure out a way to break the chain. The only way we can literally break the chain is by getting the education. And we know, we understand the 16 or so percent of black students going to HBCUs. The young lady, she loves D, asked a question. She said, how do we promote HBCUs without losing ourselves? We got to ask ourselves the opposite question of that. Why do they love what the HBCU has, but not us? HBCUs are gaining popularity overseas because overseas they see the struggles we're going through. They also see the education that we have. They also know that popular is our culture. So you have more international students applying to HBCUs than ever before. They see the impact and what we can do. We don't see it in ourselves. We are the light. We are the beacon. Every popular music in this country started from black people. Most of the popular movies and sayings and all the weird stuff you think about started from us. People say that we lose our culture because we assimilate to everybody else, but every historical black movement since slavery started from HBCUs. The sit-ins with Martin, the migrations up to north from South Mississippi started in Itta Bena. So HBCUs not only need to understand the power they have to break the chain, but how do we get that message out there? As a young lady, she loves the moment asked. Easy way to do that is the first like, share, and subscribe. No, I'm kidding. I'll be serious about it. Easy way to do it is the one we got to get the message out to HBCUs. But the thing is, we can't use the message of support your HBCUs, your historically black college. Reason why, because we were marginally taken apart, or whatever you want to call it. We can't use that. It's going to be a weird way to do it, but in order to promote HBCUs, we have to kind of not mention why HBCUs were needed. Because the thing is, yes, historically black college universities, yes. But until they actually ask, well, why are they historically black? We can't tell them because black people couldn't get educations with other people. Because the first thing they're going to think of is, oh, so this is a black only college. Oh, it's separate but equal. Oh, it's still segregated. That's the mentality people have outside of the HBCU structure. And the thing we have to also do, and this goes back to the 5 steps, we have to show what our education can do. We have to start investing not only in our schools, but our communities. We have to put flags up everywhere, all over the state of your college. In Texas, we have a ton of HBCUs in this state. But outside of, honestly, Third Ward, Houston, Prairie View, maybe on campus Parkland, you don't see many flags. The way you combat everything in those 5 steps and combat promoting HBCUs is to be proud of who you are, proud of what your school has brought you. Anybody can find something negative. My school didn't have pizza on Friday. My school didn't have black olives to go in the Greek salad. But you find something positive about your HBCU and you brag as loud as you complain. And I guarantee you, one, it will change. And two, it will break those chains, those 5 steps. I'm out.